Well, right now we have the head Lagos Liaison Office of United Nations Population Fund, Dr. Omolasho Omoshein, joining us in the studio right now. Okay, good to have you join us this morning. 25,685 babies on the first day. If we have to make that calculation, maybe for the subsequent days until now, that number would have increased. But let's talk about the population of Nigeria rising or growing at about average of about 3% annually, thereabout, and all of that. Yeah. What implication does this have already in the population that is so large and everyone is throwing concerns?
Yeah, it does have a lot of implications. We do know that if population is not properly managed, it can tilt either positively or negatively. Positively in the sense that if you manage the population and you create jobs for the youth especially, then you find that when these youths begin to work, it means that the country can gain from it. But of course, we also want to look at the resources of the country. Do we have enough resources to cater for the population? And when we're talking about resources, we should not think about the national resources alone. We should also think about the individual resources. For instance, we do know that if the average working class population is not able to properly take care of those that are not working, especially youths that are below 15 and the elderly that are above maybe 65, then we have an issue. Already we do have that issue in Nigeria. Presently, the ratio is approximately 1:1. In developed countries, the ratio should be about 3:1, 3 working class population to those that are dependent. But in Nigeria, we are far below that requirement. And if the population continues to grow at that rate, then we're in trouble.
A report says Africa, including Nigeria, is having a boom now with its rising numbers. But then another report has said the population figures now 198 at least million in the country now might just be a time bomb or a curse on the nation going by the existing infrastructure and its deficits already. But you just mentioned a critical point now about the youth. The question I would want to ask is, if the youth under 25 years of age stand at 63%, how then do we invest in this very critical sector?
Well, I think it starts with planning, deliberate planning. Now, I talked about the population structure of Nigeria. For instance, we know that about 40% or more of the population of Nigeria, they are less than 15 years old. Now, we should, for us to gain from this population figure, we need to deliberately do some things. Invest, for instance, in family planning, invest in child survival, invest in girl-child education. Now, why do we need to invest in family planning? We need to give the couple the choice to determine how many children they want to have. And if they want to space their children, they should have a means to do that. Now, if we're able to do that, and we are beginning to see now that a lot of children are surviving, into adolescence and all that. In the times past, it was not so. A lot of children that were born do not survive, till the age of 5. So people tend to have more children. But that is changing now. And if we can take advantage of the fact that really healthcare is improving, and we can now decide responsibly that we want to have this amount of children, and we're able to stick to that plan by using family planning. You can space the number of children you want to have. You can decide when you want to stop, and you have a method to stop. That gives confidence to the system. And of course, we want to invest in girl-child education. Right. There are a lot of women out there who are capable of working, but they don't have the skills. There are some women who, they grew up as illiterate because of their background. But if we can allow the girl child to go to school, proper education, not just literacy, but, building skills, then we find that their quantum contribution to the economy will also, matter a lot.
All right. As at today, the 14th, if by the calculations we had 25,600 on the first day of January, by today we'll have the average of 368,000 babies as of today. And if it goes on this way, by the end of January, we'll be having about 768,000 babies. That's an average for just 1 month. If you calculate that by 1 year, then you know how much that is. But you talked about deliberate planning. Yes. We remember the China one-child policy, which they have relaxed a little now for into two-child policy. In Nigeria at the time, government had muted for Nigerians to have a maximum of about 4 babies before. We saw the reaction of Nigerians. Where we have ethnic, religious beliefs where people feel that, or people believe that it is God that gives children and that nobody should put a cap onto how many children one should have, how more challenging would it be for that deliberate planning in Nigeria?
Well, it depends on what area of planning you're looking at.
Okay.
If we allow families to decide what they want, eventually we'll find that what we call the fertility rate will come down. As a matter of fact, it has improved over the years. Presently, it's about between 5 and 6.
But when you talk about family deciding, is it not the family that is deciding whether to have 7 children or to have 12 children right now?
You see, the reason why they are having a lot of children is because it's like betting.
Okay.
At least if I have 10, maybe about 4 of them will survive. Okay. Now that medical services have improved, health services have improved, we are seeing that a lot of children are surviving. The child mortality rate is coming down in Nigeria. And so there's really no reason why we should have as many more children as before. There are some countries that have deliberately planned for that. But you see, the advantage over those that decided, I mean, where the families decided the number of children they want to have, is not much. For instance, Tunisia too, they had a deliberate, child policy. Yes, they've gained from it, but it's not only having the number of children, but also taking advantage of the population. For instance, if you have 2 children, and at the end of the day, they don't have a job, I mean, there is a liability to them. So we need deliberate policies to plan for the youth. Let's give them jobs. Let's create environments where they can get credit from the bank. Right now, I don't think there's any bank that will give any youth any money, except maybe they have some collaterals.
All right, let's look at now the existing programs that the federal government, have planned, now to ameliorate it. I mean, just a few weeks ago, the Vice President, Professor Shibajo, was also commenting on this issue. It was at that event and that the word, time bomb was also used. Now, I mean, how satisfactory are these programs? Now, there may not be results that one will get immediately now, but is it a good way to begin the year with now, talking about the girl child, as you said, the youth now, and of course, if you lie them or use them against the UNFPA's programs for the year?
Well, it depends really on the policymakers. You will agree with me that it will be difficult in Nigeria to tell a family, this is the number of children you will have. But, somebody said, welcome, I mean, Happy New Year, welcome to the season of school fees. Except you do not want your children to progress in life. Maybe you are just creating those children to be a nuisance, to add to the numbers. But if you are a father that cares, you're a mother that cares, you don't want to have children that are liabilities. So that is why in UNFPA, we rather say the family should responsibly decide. We've seen countries where they have invested heavily in family planning. People know where to go to get, the commodities. People know what side effects to expect when they use the commodities. So,
but in that case, is it satisfactory enough in Nigeria, for instance?
Well, right now we just have to, live with what we have.
All right. We've seen governments of Denmark, Finland, Estonia, Uzbekistan, Iceland at different times, where their population was going down, and they invested massively in encouraging citizens to give birth to children. Yes. Deliberate government policy. When we come back to Nigeria, the reverse is the case in this instance. But what strategies are left to government if they have to take that proactive one-on-one strategy to reduce or stabilize population?
Well, like I said, really, in Nigeria, we do not have so many options because we have so many religious beliefs, we have so many traditional beliefs and all that. But I believe that there are three key investments that Nigeria can do, to really, manage the population structure. Actually, we should be talking about the population structure.
Yes.
Right now, we have a lot of dependent population that are not doing anything, that have to be catered for by the working class. Now, the three key investments, I will repeat them again. Family planning. Family planning, is not just getting the commodities out there.
Right.
Let's educate the people about what family planning is. Let's tell them where to get it. For instance, the federal government has made the commodities quite free, so everybody can afford it. The second key investment is the girl child education. Like I said, the enrollment rate now for girls in Nigeria is probably about 20-something%.
Still
at
poor.
least by the figures that I saw
Still
last.
poor.
Yes, very poor. Now, in other areas, we find that girl child education receives a lot of attention. Now, the third investment, has to do with the deliberate policy, to create jobs.
All right.
Okay,
Dr. Omolasho Omoshenyi, I'm afraid we just have to, rest on that note now. We'll feed on it. We appreciate your time with us. Dr. Omoshenyi is the Lagos head of UNFPA. Thanks a lot for joining us, Doctor.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.